Oh my God, everything went wrong.
That is a mess. That is not faith in democracy.
Iowa. Why in the heck are we still talking about Iowa? Well, what happened there seems almost certain to bring big changes to the way the entire country picks a president.
Chair of the Iowa Democratic Party resigns.
Is this the last Iowa caucus we'll ever see?
I think the Democratic Caucus in Iowa should come to an end.
This is 3 straight caucuses where the result is in doubt.
First, let's admit you're seeing a lot of white guys in this story. And that's actually been one of the big criticisms of Iowa and New Hampshire going first. Both states have much smaller minority populations than the rest of America.
2 states that hardly have any black people in them, hardly have any people of color.
An LX Morning Consult poll from January also showed that 59% of respondents said those 2 states don't really represent their views. So then why does Iowa go first? A caucus is a very unique thing, and that was actually the reason I went to Iowa in the first place, to show you what a caucus looks like, show you how a caucus works. The first thing to know about a caucus is that it is a very public vote, so all of these people who are your friends, your neighbors, your family, they're gonna know who you vote for.
It can be very intimidating to stand up and say this is it, because I see people here I recognize that aren't caucusing for the same person I am.
I feel like it kind of puts you into action. You have to start thinking about what you believe, what you want, and talk to the people around you and get that across.
And it becomes a public vote because voters are literally going to gather around these tables for Joe Biden, for Amy Klobuchar, for Andrew Yang, for Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg. They're going to gather around the table for the candidate of their first choice. This is really important. There's actually 2 rounds of voting in an Iowa caucus. This is the first one. What they're doing right now is they're counting the people in their group. They've got to hit 15%. In this room, there are 411 people. That means 15% is 62 people. If they don't have 62 people, that means that the candidate is considered not viable.
And if our candidate isn't viable, we have to come in with a second option. So I would say everybody here has a 1 and a 2.
It will be very busy. It will be somewhat confusing. It will go on longer than you think it should.
Prophetic words, huh? Little did he know that the results would be in dispute for days. And that caucus that I went to in Ames, it was pretty rocky too. So the lights went out just as this was getting underway, so it's kind of dark in the cafeteria. They're trying to get the lights back on. They also had people leaving their first choice candidate for their second choice too soon.
So we need to make sure we're following the rules very carefully. Do not realign.
And confusion with the presidential preference cards, basically the paper ballots, which the precinct chair, Olivia Madison, had to sort out, while she also tried to sort out problems with the reporting app.
I made the decision to use the telephone because given some of the issues I had with getting the app to work the way it's supposed to, I just didn't want to worry about that.
Olivia and I talked 3 days after the caucus, just as things heated up with calls for the end of the Iowa caucuses.
I think most Democrats are becoming to realize that caucuses are terrible.
The National Democratic Party chair tweeted, "Enough is enough," demanding a recanvass. Illinois Senator Dick Durbin also had enough.
People who work all day, pick up the kids at daycare, do you think they're headed to the caucus next? Of course not. We've got to have a means for people to express themselves that is reliable. Unfortunately, the caucus system is not.
Olivia, does that hurt to hear that?
Yes, it does, because I've been involved with our caucus systems for several decades now. So it's more than just plugging in a vote.
And I do think that Iowa is in really big danger of losing their status as the first contest in presidential contests.
I mean, we now have a senator, congressman, voters that are calling for this to be the last Iowa caucus ever. Do you think that's what happens here?
Yeah, and it would be a humongous loss to the state of Iowa. I mean, so much money, so much infrastructure, and if the Iowa caucuses end up going away, it would be a devastating hit to the state of Iowa.
If that is what happens, what do you think is the best decision for the American people? What should we do in place of Iowa?
That's a great question. Anything from actually having a national primary, although one of the downsides of that is that the person who has the most money and can run the most ads can end up winning, versus actually picking a different state that really can kick the tires of voters and actually have a process that makes sense to the American public.
So Florida and Ohio, Texas?
I've heard calls for Georgia, but man, that is up to the political leaders.
All right, you've watched this long, so you probably want to know what's going to happen next. One, listen for talk of weekend elections or an election holiday. That same LX Morning Consult poll showed that 33% of people said they would be more likely to vote if it was on a weekend. Two, and this is big, listen for the term ranked choice voting. You can think of it like an Olympic medal podium, where instead of just picking one candidate, voters get to rank their top picks. It's already used everywhere from Maine to Minneapolis, San Francisco, and voters really seem to like it. It's also going to be used by 5 states this year in the Democratic presidential primary. So, sounds like I know what my next story is going to be.